Incidentally, one thing that also put in M1 is that we try to put as much functionality in as we could at the lowest cost, so people wouldn't need to upgrade necessarily till farther down the road. Whether or not we made the right trade-off on what to put on and what to leave for a bus later on, you guys determine based on your individual needs.
I'm going to interrupt for just a second for the one other feature of this little event, which I mentioned at the beginning. I think that it would probably be instructive for all of us if each member of this panel could ask one question to each other member of the panel. We've got about 20 minutes, so I'm going to ask that you ask short questions and that you give short answers. And since we started in one order, let's do this in the other order. And I think, Paul, that puts you first. Oh, did you start? Okay, you started. Okay.
Okay, for Paul, I know Frank wants to ask this question, and a lot of you want to ask this question. And one of Paul's announcements last July, I think it was, Paul, on your conference on CompuServe, and it had to do with the imminent release of QuickBasic. Not QuickBasic, I'm sorry. Yeah, QuickBasic Ward. What's the status of that? When can we expect it? How much?
QuickBasic, we have not actually started to work on that yet because we've been busy getting the machine out, which has been a more than full-time job by more than 4 people for more than a year. The QuickBasic source code is, according to the people from whom we licensed it, I'm not a C programmer, so I have not looked at it and I can't evaluate it even if I could, since C is a write-only language. We anticipate that the initial port shouldn't take any more than a month. Pricing, and if anybody would like to know exactly why, I'll be glad to tell you at the booth. But fine-tuning it and providing some user interface stuff. We also have a right under contract to add some extra functionality. We're going to spend some time on that. We anticipate having it out by the end of this year, and we anticipate the pricing to be approximately what the PC pricing is for the compiled version of QuickBasic, which I think on a street price is about $150. It should be about that, maybe a little bit more. We will probably also include with that some freeware QuickBasic stuff so you guys can not only get the language but also play with it. That's a good question. And Frank asked for that one. The special features that we're going to add, we're trying not to close out any other computer systems. In fact, we'd like to sell it to anybody who might buy other game machines. So we need to know anything. So, yeah, our goal is to make it as accessible as possible so we can get the installed user base up by generating interest in any of these machines.
Thank you. Frank? I got real interested in your 68,000 board on the TC9. I guess my question is, okay, I buy a TC9, and I put your 68,000 board on it, and I start running my Color Computer software, be it RS Basic or OS9, so forth. What does it do for me?
Okay. First, let me cover Radio Shack Basic. Kenton Joe Shinto at RGB DOS is doing RGB DOS for the TC9, and we have had some preliminary discussions about putting support in the BASIC for the Tiger, which would mean that programs written in BASIC, I'm not talking machine language programs, could utilize the Tiger, the 68,000 board. Machine language programs don't know it's there, and consequently it would be of no benefit for them. I am hopeful that once we get this toy out in the hands of some of the people that have developed this software, that they will take advantage of that with some machine language programs for reject DOS, but I have no control over that, cannot promise anything. If you write programs in BASIC, then you as users will be able to play with it and utilize the Tiger, and that's for RS-DOS users, that's one of the limiting factors of RS-DOS, because it's not a real operating system. And by a real operating system, I mean that it does not sit between the hardware and the user. A lot of stuff written for RS-DOS goes directly to the hardware, so when you change the hardware, you have a problem. We've handled that very effectively with virtual machine. As far as the TC9 I/O changes go, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do along the same lines for the 68,000. Now, when you go to OS9 Level 2, we're talking about an entirely different thing. It's a true operating system. It does sit between the application and the hardware. And changes made to OS9 Level 2 to activate and use the Tiger will be beneficial. We don't have any concrete numbers on paper. Some things could be speeded up by as much as 8 times. We're seeing 2 to 3 fold overall, kind of crossing our fingers, hoping we're not too far off the mark. So some things are going to be faster, some things are not going to be speeded up at all. It is going to be an improvement, and as I said, it's going to be a lot of fun. Did I answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Okay, Frank, it's now your turn to ask a question.
Right. One of the, this is for Paul, one of the things, because the TC70 and the MM1 are more similar than dissimilar, there are some things about them that make the cost different. Specifically, the fact that the MM1 does not have a bus interface and the TC70 does have a bus interface, and the TC70 is slightly more expensive. In order for people to evaluate and compare the two, it would be helpful to know what price points that you mentioned earlier you expect to achieve when you do a bus interface to the MM1.
That's a good question. Since the R&D is not complete, I can't give you our goal is a functionality goal, and the functionality goal is access to a lot of hardware, although access to any kind of add-on board is always gated by, is there a driver? And we're not going to expect, of course, our consumers to write the drivers for it. I know that's an issue that you guys have to address, and I'm sure they do a good job at it. But the functionality is access to a good amount of hardware, and because we have jumped on very early on, even before multimedia even got to be a buzzword, we were looking at multimedia stuff because it's compact, it's interactive, and it's used OSK. We felt strongly that the bus that we offer should have enough bandwidth to support high-speed data transfers over it. So we're committed to a 32-bit design. So once that functionality